Last week we got a demo about Angular 9 and GraphQL. Then we talked about a new site from Cloud Construct. We talked about the most probable dates. I still need to talk to Dan, and he said I could talk to him today, but today for him is not today for me. I haven't talked this morning, so I will try to ping him later or tomorrow. Then, what else? This week, demos. I assume we should have demos because I see people. We merged some PRs at least. Even maybe they don't need any demo because we already saw them. So we'll still have a status. What we can show is no one has anything in mind. Topics, new website. They have 3 of them. They have 1, 2, and 3. See them? Very nice ones. Impressive. So start with status and not Skype, but this is the same color, so I was confused. This one. There's someone waiting in the room. Thanks. So I saw some chat. I could not join, but I got notifications about chat in the chat room. Were you able to go in the chat room before being able to join the conversation? Oh, I assume because the chat room is always open once you join it. Yeah, I saw some message last week also. So let's fetch everything. This is Orchard core, but we'll start with Orchard 1. We merged some changes during triage. Good. Last week we talked about tabs and cards and add a link view in admin index to see how it looks taxonomy on the front end. So just updated the summary admin links so that when you click on a taxonomy, it doesn't do what it does today. I think it will edit now taxonomy, but there is a view button now, like the other content items, to view directly on the front end the taxonomy. That's the only thing on Orchard 1. Orchard core. I think there is a lot on Orchard core. I'm already on the dev branch. Dev branch, close that. Can I filter on the dev branch? It's filtered. 11th was last week, and how do we say that in? So in French, we say, Antoine, please correct me if I'm wrong. We say, quand le chat n'est pas là, les souris dansent. When the cat is away, the mice dance. Right? And it means that I didn't work at all on Orchard last week, which means everyone merged all the PRs. The mice play, thank you. But we say dance in French. So let's see everything that has been merged. When search returns no result, displays a message box. Okay, so I assume just a warning. As if, okay, there are no such results. Both templates. Mice will play. And I was there. Someone didn't use the button on the PRs, I see. This description, because now the merge but action in GitHub is blocked on squash and merge, so you can't do things like this anymore. Add this part description to doc. Okay. Remove Unify plugin because doc build fails, and the merge commit. That's the issue. Disable feature confirmation messages. And I think also we can't merge directly to dev unless we are admin. And I think only Antoine and I can do that, or very few can actually do that for security reasons. But that's good. Disable feature confirmation messages, Magnus Peterson. Disable feature confirmation messages. List of enable features that depend on this feature. So when we disable, we'll get a warning that so this is some HTML construction, which looks good, and then disabling the blah blah feature will also disable the following dependent features. Continue, that looks good. So it's a message. So how is that different from before? Just a variable name that changed?
It used to show you all the features that were dependent on the module, even if they weren't enabled.
Just a variable name change. Okay. Enabled features. Oh, I see. I see. So this is also the name change and also the fact that it will only display the features that are actually enabled. If they're not enabled, then you don't need to get a warning to say, hey, it will be disabled also. It's already disabled. Good job. But at the same time, that's weird because if it depends on the feature and the feature is enabled, the dependent feature should already be enabled or there is an issue. So that's weird. This should not be the case. This looks good, but how you got to this issue means there was an issue before, another issue. So I'm not sure this is the actual fix. This one, update GraphQL field resolution. There was some conflict I saw. So Jean-Thierry added the actual type for everything. 6 is an issue, so that's good. Don't add an item to a zone shape already processed. And the waterfall effect. So there was a change recently about the order of rendering for the zones and the layout. And I assume we start seeing other issues related to that. So this is the same thing, just a different piece of code. If content zone is shape to a zone shape already processed, because when a zone shape is processed, it's no more a zone shape, is HTML. So here in this case, if it's processed, the zone is not a shape anymore, so you can't do add on it. So now there is a check that is it actually a shape. So I think it's related to the change we did last week about pre-rendering zones before the layout. What concerns me is that if Jean-Thierry fixed that, it means someone found an issue that something was added to a zone and it was already rendered. So now, what triggered that? That's the question. Case insensitive shape parameters based on a comment we made last week. A change was reverted, but not all of the change, which was all of the previous change was also putting an uppercase on the variable names. And I explicitly handled the case insensitivity in the variable names here, so it looks like standard C#, contrary to version 1. So gently revert it again to make it back a lowercase. That's the first letter. Camel case. Fixes changing tenant prefix. So apparently an issue when you change the prefix of a tenant. Fix hint nightly bills. Yes, so I commented on it last week when we looked at the guide. It was incorrectly formatted, so Antoine fixed it. TitlePart required, AliasPart disabled. Okay, so can someone, I saw the PR, but I didn't look at the code exactly. So this is changed to get editor shape type because this can be dynamic. So you can define a dynamic display or editor. So it should not be static, but is it just that? Here I see a new reference to abstractions, which is fine. I think there is a new option. It's not a Boolean anymore. Okay, I think that's it on the Alias. There is a new setting, AliasPart options. The user can define custom alias, editable, generated, disabled, editable, generated, disabled. So new settings in the alias to be able to auto-generate an alias. Is that the PR?
There was a couple of things in that PR. One was to add.
GitHub.
You can't hear me, can you?
Fixes that, make AliasPart from controls hide light title part, so you can hide it also if it's auto-generated, and create setting to make it required, and it can be required. So that fixes the two of these. Okay. So AliasPart looks a lot like TitlePart, but it's a known feature. Direction also, that's another fix, fixing the direction of the alias. Good job. Custom display, well, the default display. Good job, because now everything needs a default display. So editable, alias is editable, alias is generated, and input is disabled. Which means I assume it's hidden. Okay. And there is no third option like it's generated. So
the idea with that one.
Okay, input disable means I can still see it. I hope I can still see it. Yeah. I can't hide it, but can't edit it, but we should be able to still see it. TitlePart display. Required, yes, because we broke it. Title was not required anymore. And I think now that's a setting. Good. Good job. HTML mode for codemirror on HtmlField and HtmlBody standard editor. HTML mode for codemirror. Antoine, what is that? So I don't have to guess.
It's using codemirror to edit the HTML, the standard editor.
HTMLBody part edit, HTMLField edit. So it's just updating the codemirror editor to have HTML colorization. That's what it looks like. Is Antoine here? Yes, we saw him. And it's not muted. Is it me that I don't hear anything? Oh, wait. Can you talk again?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, yes, now I can hear because it's funny, my speaker button is lit up, which means it should be muted, but my Windows here says now it's no more muted. So this is the opposite. So I assume anytime someone was talking, I wasn't hearing anything.
That sounds likely.
So, and so did some, yeah, and you're not muted either. So I assume some people talked. And I assume you talked about the Alias title part, right, Dean?
I was going to explain it because I approved it.
Okay, yeah, sorry guys.
But
that felt weird that nobody
because you
said.
just read the code and you know exactly what it does.
Awesome. So good. Sorry guys. Next week we'll do a mic check. Usually people say hello. Well, Mathis says hello, and so I know everyone is hearing.
We've lost your screen share now as well, by the way.
No, I still see it.
Maybe it's just me.
Well, yeah, I hope so. But I'm recording, that's fine. You can see it online. Okay, so that's for, was I right, Antoine, to add just HTML color syntaxing in these fields and part?
For the standard editor.
Thank you. Okay, good job. Page or shape, so update on the PR from last week. Explaining documentation about what it is, or just an oh dear, oh you made a PR and then you merged it. Thank you. To update based on the feedback, I assume. That's good. Now you understand everything about tags, classes, IDs, and everything. Good job. Update.editorconfig. Editorconfig insert final new line. I saw that, and it's awesome actually. So we won't have to add the new line anymore on the text files. Job. I didn't know it would exist even. So add openid URL validator localizer. URL validator localizer. Validate URLs. This is wrong. This is wrong. You could say, well, I think it will work, but I can give you an example where it won't work. So this is wrong. Here, so the issue is that context is passed here, validation context. I assume it has a reference to the request scope that will resolve the service as string localizer of a thing, a startup. Okay, fine. First issue is that because the context will probably be this class, and the string here will probably be found as part of this class, then the PO file won't match the one that this service is looking for, I think. First issue. Then this is a static property assigned once from a request service scoped service. Even if it's a singleton service, it's for the tenant that runs this code. Now the second tenant will go on this static variable and reuse the same instance from the other tenant. What happens if you disable a tenant or restart the other tenant? The reference will be disposed if it's a disposable object, and I think it is. So this guy will, the second tenant, which hasn't been restarted, will be invoked, will invoke that and say object disposed, exception, blah, blah, blah. So you can't do that. And I'm sure there are nicer ways to do this kind of thing. Otherwise, well, we do that for data validation. So this should not be in a static method. This has to be refactored. So this is fixing maybe a translation issue, but this is adding a more important issue. So to be fixed. And if we do it somewhere else, and it was copy pasted from somewhere else, we need to fix it also. Okay. So add recipe step to create scope from openid. I think yes, there was a request for that. Scopes can be set through openid connect scopes. Okay. So just a table without headers. That's weird. Does it work? Documentation and recipe steps. So I will trust Matthew's, sorry, my key on this one. It looks good. And there is some documentation, and this time everything has been registered. I know Antoine had fixed some missing registration by the past. Filter deployment steps. Filter deployment steps. So on the UI, now a new search box for the deployment steps. Filter, autofocus, and when you type, it will filter the list. Okay, simple, easy. Thank you. Add codemirror resources to manifest.
Because my PR was missing this one.
Okay. We already had something, so we must have decided to include that inside this file. Is always enabled for navigation because it's required by the admin. Prevent from disabling navigation. Fixes RunningShellTable remove. Probably because of one of the changes that were done earlier. Trumbowyg plugins. Is it a bundling of everything?
Because some minified files were in the assets.
Okay. Set length there only if RTL. I assume you found an issue, so you fixed it. Check file import. Oh yeah, someone. Yeah, I think someone filed an issue about that. So what was the problem? Okay. Okay. Create template 7 continue must redirect to edit template. Okay, return. Then sitemaps module, boom, merged. Awesome. Thank you, Dean, and thank you for all the reviewers. And there is some documentation. Wow. Some support for profile scope claims. Demo. Preferred username. Nope. Whoever reviewed the PR should know better. It's a minor issue, but still an issue. We have mentioned that many times. If you see someone logging with $, it means there is an issue. You don't generate dynamic logs, you generate a static string of logging. And here you use a nice name and arguments like a string format to be replaced by the nice names in the same order they were inserted. So that's wrong. That's a minor issue, but if we do things like this, then people will do the same thing again and again. Okay. And also commenting on the PR would have been nice to let Pete know about how to do that. So I'm sure someone will find an issue or fix the thing here. Is it obvious? Antoine, did you merge the commit? Committer?
Yes, I did. Kevin put the commits a long time ago.
Okay.
The conflict.
But you understand the issue with the logging here, right? You know. Okay, good. Remove Nancy nuget dependency. Yes, because we don't have this module and it's not supported anymore until someone adds a sample for Carter, which is a replacement of Nancy. Clean up namespaces. Update sample code adding content fields to a part. Okay, good job. Wait, I say good job. It's an old PR. Was it an old PR?
No, it's actually current, that PR, and I checked it, and the code as was documented doesn't work.
Okay, then I'm fine, because I think I've seen a PR where it was changing some doc, but it was wrong. Or if it was correct, then it should have been wrong. Alter tab definition, product, with part, with field. Okay, I see. So we can't do that.
Yeah, we can't do it directly because that's the type definition, which doesn't have the builder for building the part. I must admit that that whole set of documentation is not totally clear.
Because you see of type with, oh, that's bad. Why do we need of type? Well, we need it here also. Oh, because this is adding, okay, sorry. This is defining what is the type. Okay. So we need to call AliasPart definition every time. That's weird. It looks like we should have an extension method on that thing that has with field that is doing the alter type definition, and then, well, yeah. But,
yeah, because that's the custom, well, not the custom, the special property or the special type that contains the fields for that type. Yeah, because of that, we don't have one.
Okay. Good cleanup. Ooh. Easy one. What did you run? Did you run a script, or is there a Visual Studio function to that? Did you open all the files and save everything and to let Visual Studio?
1800 files. I used codemirror.
Okay. Wow. 3 GitHub points. Setting and removing HttpContext.Items from liquid template. So I remember this PR, and it's merged. The only concern I have with that, but I never decided if we should not or do accept this PR. So it has been accepted. I had pros and cons in my head to refuse that. The issue being that exposing mutation operations in liquid is dangerous because it's going in the opposite direction to what liquid is supposed to be. A liquid template is supposed to be super safe. You can't break anything with a liquid template. And for the same reason, we had the discussion when we wanted to change a shape property, and then we decided to do that. Here is the items list of HttpContext. Because everyone can write a liquid template, then now everyone can edit an item in HttpContext. I don't see anything wrong that you could do with that until someone finds something wrong that you can do with that. That's why I was not sure about accepting it. So if any hacker, nice hacker, thinks about something interesting with that, please let us know. I will ask around also. And sometimes it's just exploiting something that someone else is using the items, and then from a template you can do something. At the same time, not everyone can write a template, so that's fine, but just preventing some permission escalations or things like this. But looks good. Most commonly used error pages. Okay, so adding more views, custom views for error codes, so you can change them in your themes. I think it's an old PR also. Looks pre-init shell list to have simpler code. Okay. Okay. Create a point to extend media process. I remember this PR also. When I saw that, I didn't really agree with it. That's called a using. there were many things inside the PR. I will check it again. Create a point to extend media process. Azure container name must be lowercase. Really. So you see this thing? This is, I think, what I did last time, which is wrong. I think we need some spaces, otherwise it won't appear under the note. But another paragraph, and that's what Antoine fixed on my doc. Note when templating the container name using the tenant's name will be automatically lowercase. And prepare to lower. So the container name needs to be, yes, that's what it says. Okay, only the container name. Okay, good. This one, you will think about calling toLower or toLower invariant. Is there a security concern with that here? Again, it's defined by an admin. This is a setting, but could we have collisions by using toLower or the opposite toLower invariant? Find canonical time zone from system default return time zone. That was an issue on Mac, I assume. So fixes something, that's good. Okay, lots of things to triage, to review, because many things merged. That's a good thing. What did I miss? Memory locator, Trumbowyg and Fondosum. Yes, and SVG and corresponding setting doesn't seem to work. What is the purpose of static logs? This is dynamic logs. Yes. Oh yeah, that's about the questions earlier. When you log a message, the idea is that you log always the same string, so that only one string is allocated. Versus if you build a string dynamically, all the strings will be allocated in memory. And that's why the log methods in the .NET Core accept a custom format, pattern format, which is when you use the curly braces, you put a name, a nice name like my name, an IP, or whatever name you want. It doesn't matter. It's just something that will render nicely in a structured log. And then the next parameters you pass in the method are the values that will be placed into the pattern elements in the string. They won't match by name, but just by position. So the first pattern will match the first argument and so on. So look at any log call in the source code and you will find how it works. And nobody understands that when they do .NET Core because it's really not obvious, but it's well documented, but it's not obvious. So, and we had to change all our source code at some point when we realized it. All good. Okay, so I assume number of PRs is now 0. No, 68 because of Jasmine. Otherwise, we'll be at 66. But that's much lower than the 80s we were a few weeks ago, with all the efforts that contributors have done, and even the new ones are very new. So which means we must have been even lower than that. Good job, everyone. Demos? Still no demos?
Yeah, I can still do that taxonomy routing demo if there's.
Oh yes, the one we did. We should have done 4 weeks ago. Go on, please, and explain all the the context of this thing. We talked about it a month ago, I assume. All the reasons why we started looking at different solutions. And then you did something.
So yes, I did something. So I guess the main issue is that currently we don't have routing for taxonomies or contained content items.
There were two things we discussed. I'm just saying it out loud just to refresh my mind. There was the taxonomy routing, where we will be able to route an item inside a taxonomy, so a term, anything inside. Goal being able to list all the things that are associated to this term. And the issue being that, like back parts and anything that is contained in a content item can't be routed right now because auto-route doesn't work on sub-content items. So this is the first issue. And the second thing we looked at was dynamic routing, to be able to define as a content item or in a content item a patterned route like we will do statically in code, so that multiple URLs will match the same content item, and then the content item could use these route values to render something differently or do queries. So there were two different things, but we talked about them at the same time.
Yeah, that's a really good summary. So what I've done is more around taxonomies and contained parts, or items that are contained basically inside one content item as a bit of JSON. So it works for both bag parts and taxonomies, but it also kind of allows us at some point in the future to also provide a templated route as well, potentially. So if we were to look at, I haven't got a huge amount of time, so I'll use some content items that have actually already been created. So what I have here is a categories taxonomies, which has a bunch of separate routes, or a bunch of separate terms. And if I publish that, we can now go to view that. And on the front end of the site, actually get a nice URL of categories.
So that is already new, right? We can't do that today, or what?
Correct, that's new. We don't have any display option at all for taxonomies currently.
So the view button, what happens if I click a view button on a taxonomy today?
I think I would have to check. I think you go to a URL.
A generic URL, because it doesn't have auto-route, and it just displays maybe a display text categories. That's it.
I don't think it even has the display text, to be honest, but maybe it
has to. It has to.
Must have the display text.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Of course, the footer.
And now you have container/categories. Okay. How do you get that then? So no auto-route. Did you add an auto-route part on the?
So what I added was an entirely new part called a container route part.
Okay.
Because we talked about whether to merge it with auto-route or whether not. And I figured the easiest way to go, at least to get something up and running, was to just make a new one that's very similar to auto-route, but not quite the same, and see where we end up, whether it needs to be abstracted into two parts or whether it can actually go back into one. I think probably it works better as separate parts because there are different things about it. The behavior is different. So what you end up with is, when you actually look at the content item itself, some buttons down here which are very similar to auto-route. In terms of being able to set the home page, set the permalink, so we can change this to categories 2 or something along those lines.
Just knee-jerk reaction here. If you say that they are very similar, you get 50% of the people will say it should be the same thing then. And then if there is some custom logic, then there might be some custom handler in the taxonomy to handle the custom logic for taxonomy on this part. And this way there is a single part. We'll see later, but
yeah, it comes down to how the indexes are handled. Personally, I think you probably could merge them together. But we try this way first to see what was needed.
Maybe the code might become more complex, but in terms of user experience, there will be less concepts to learn. We'll see. Let's see. Let's continue with your demo.
So what we also now have is the actual terms routing, which is the bit that we couldn't do previously. I should find one with some lists, with some stuff in it, shouldn't I? So I messed around with this. Does that have a taxonomy on it? No, it doesn't.
Can you create a new content item?
Yeah, let me just see what that term actually takes, or what content items have the field on it, because I messed around with this demo quite a lot. So I'll put it just in one for the moment. So we create the article, we put it in the taxonomy category. And then when we go to there, we actually have the articles that are associated with that taxonomy term.
If you display the taxonomy content item, what template is it using? Content-taxonomy?
No, it's using term. I made a new shape for it because I had to build a content driver and a whole bunch of stuff to actually make it render, because we don't have a display option for the term either.
That is a term, but for the previous window where it displays the hierarchy. This
Sorry,
page.
What was the question again?
What is the shape for this page?
The parent page here is the taxonomy display page, so it will be taxonomy.
Content-taxonomy?
As an override, it would be content-taxonomy. As an alternate, yes.
You mean you say override, but it can only be that then. There is no this is the root of everything.
Well, it's the taxonomy part is the name of the view.
Oh, there is taxonomy. I see. So you say, okay, you could change the taxonomy part itself. Okay.
So for an alternate, you would have your content type dash taxonomy part. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So when we go in here, we have just a generic list of items displayed in summary admin view, or in summary view. And then of course it builds automatically the links through to the content item itself. So what we've seen in Orchard 1 taxonomy view.
I have a flashback. A year ago, someone showed us something like this with the same theme, and it was also displaying taxonomies, but I think it was working on Orchard 1. And then I think we talked about having a custom display type for that. Like when you display this content type as a taxonomy term, then use this summary like, but that's a flashback. Oh my God. Or déjà vu. We had a meeting last year about someone who did something like this. Okay. Looks good. Sorry.
That's all right. This is all about kind of feedback on it. So some of the things that kind of has to happen because of this is if we were to look at the taxonomy itself, or the content type for the term.
So you made a container route part or something like this. Does it mean I can also use it with bags?
Yeah, it does mean you can use it with bags. If I was to find the bagged item, you can use it with bags. I can make it work with localization, but it's more complicated with localization. Let's have a look example at this one, assuming this one works. I've taken the shape out of the picker, but so this content item has a bag part on it, 2 bag parts on it actually, with content items contained inside the bag part, and these now become routable as well. So on this main page, what you're seeing is the summary view for the contained content item, for the bagged item, and then you get the link through to the detail view.
So what is the item missing to have a nice URL? Is it an AliasPart?
No, what it's missing is a handle part.
Handle part, and we talked about it during the comment, I see.
Yeah, so what Sebastian's saying is, why does it have this? And the reason is because when you first add if we go back to the actual taxonomy itself, or the content definition for it, for example, so if you add a container root part to the taxonomy or the bag container, like the parent content item, then it has to have a way to build the URLs for everything that's contained in it, even if the URLs contained in it don't necessarily have a title part, or if the title is sometimes the same and duplicated. So initially you add a container root part, and then that will create a URL based on the contained content item, and if it has it, some display text. When you then want to get a pretty route for it, you go to the item that's kind of contained in it, and you add a root handler aspect or root handler part, which allows you to set what the pattern will be, whether it's just going to be based on display text, and I have a setting somewhere else which I'm not seeing here for whether or not the root should be rendered based on the parent's content item, so whether it should kind of go categories, travel, the next child, the next child, the next child, or whether it should be an absolute URL which is based off the pattern as you choose. So it's about options.
Okay.
One of the complicated things with having these items contained in each other is it's difficult to find the parent of them. So we don't have
you can't go up, yeah.
You can't go up. You can go down, but you can't go up. So most of this is based on being able to go down when the parent's published. So where that kind of going down becomes difficult is in a scenario with the content culture picker, which I pulled from the template, so you can't see it. Is if you're in say a bag list which has got maybe say 3 items in it for one culture, and then it's got 10 items in it for the other culture, you can't know which item you should be going to when you're changing cultures. Because of one may have 3 items and one may have 10 items.
But each item has a different handler.
It does, but if you want to change culture, it's difficult to match.
Oh, change culture, like switch from one culture to the other when you have a content item, because there is no relationship between the two of them. Yes, there is no relationship, so you can't switch.
Yeah, so in that case, what I can actually do is we switch back to the parent item in a different culture, which I think makes sense.
You can just get the root containers localization.
Yeah.
That's the only concept that exists, and that's fine.
Yeah, I think so. I think it makes sense. It's the best option in that choice.
Worst case, we will need to have yet another part that could define, oh, I'm the localization of this other content item. You know, like
yeah,
but
I think it's probably outside of scope at this stage. So the reason it works the reason it has a separate part is because of the need for that route handler part, and at some point it may also be useful to have an aspect handler, so that you can actually retrieve this content item here that's contained in something else via get content item ID by alias, which is something we can't do at the moment either.
Correct.
So that's probably my biggest argument for making it a separate part, because they just do have different behaviors.
Yeah, you can always have a big part with lots of other services that you can re-implement in other features that will say, oh, the current content item is a taxonomy field, so let's do it differently. You know, like we do for themes, and just, I understand it's easier for coding, and I won't disagree with that. I mean, that's the easiest thing to do. But people will say, oh, I just want to have a nice URL and configure it. And so It should be the same everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, so that's one of the reasons that I did the separate.
So what happens if I put an auto route part and a container route part?
Is going to get confused. Because it will probably start routing twice, and the auto route part will win. Because we register the auto route entries first, because they're going to be the most common, so they're the most likely to win.
See, that's why we might be able to change the current auto route part to add a level of indirection about what thing to call.
So there's actually only one extra field in the index. Sorry, 2 extra fields: the contained item and the JSON path to it. So I see it as possible to bring this into auto route.
Yeah, and then and just have something like auto route part handler or selector, and then in the taxonomy module you will implement one that will say, oh, I take it because it's a in taxonomy, in the container or whatever. So it's a container, so I can take it. So don't use a default logic, use my logic. You see what I mean? And in this way it will be just a single part. But there might be
the logic to find that item is based on an aspect. So it's a contained routing aspect, which just explains how to get to, because taxonomies are mostly stored in terms, bags are mostly stored in content items in terms of properties, JSON properties. So it just asks for an aspect which says, you know, if I'm a taxonomy, you're going to find some stuff in the terms array.
Yep, and same thing for the route handler part. Maybe same thing, auto route part, and then because it's contained, then I have a different behavior again.
Yeah, so that was probably one of the questions actually, because I can't show it on the demo because I didn't build the UI for it. But when an item's contained like this, to me it just makes sense that the roots are always, by level. But does that make sense for everybody else? Is there a time that you want the travel taxonomy to live at an absolute URL?
I see.
Nah. For me, by level is enough. It's not too difficult to do it both ways, but then you have to have another switch. You have to have a checkbox saying, should this URL be relative or should it be absolute?
Yep. I see. Yeah, maybe some people will want it to be absolute, and then you're like, So is it just a part of the URL, or if it's just is it the full URL? I see.
Like I said, it's not hard to actually do. You just have to have another checkbox saying, should I be absolute or should I be relative?
Yep. And that will also be the case with lists, like we do for the blog post and the blog. That could work. That's a big refactoring of AutoRoute because it has to, If it's just in the container route logic, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, all I do is for the container route is I just make root providers.
If you see in the opposite way, like if container route is more complex than auto route, now let's try to do the opposite. Let's imagine you just have a container route, and then if it doesn't have any content item, it will just work.
Correct.
See?
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of
yeah, it might as well just be auto route in some ways.
Yeah, so in the end, we might say, okay, auto route can handle everything. And not talking about taxonomy, but contained items, non-contained items, and then everything, and then that's it. And this way you have one part that does everything and can handle the most complex cases. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just the JSON path is
question about whether or not we could really make auto route handle templating as well.
Well, you mean the dynamic routes?
Yeah, the dynamic.
No. This I think it should be different because this is a single route for. This is multiple. Yeah, no.
It's got to be different.
And the template itself is either generated or dynamic. So it's I think this one I will agree to have a different one. It's very custom specific. It's a very specific thing. It's like I have a content item that answers to many URLs, and it gives me parameters. So I'm like, it scares me. I'm not saying it's not possible, but then mixing everything, you have conflicts. Like, is it part of the URL or is it a pattern? We made some examples and we found it would be, we could not distinguish the different URLs. So later, but yeah, well, that already looks super nice. I mean, that solves the main issue that people mention with taxonomy, and that's great. Now I have to check on theming and how people can customize that or not have that. I mean, they say, oh, I don't want to expose the endpoints for every term because I don't want people to list whatever is associated to terms. Or
actually, so one of the other options that I did add, which just isn't in this view at the moment either, is so you get two options on the root handler part is my URL relative and should routing be enabled to this part, to this item.
Okay. Good.
So you can turn it off when you want to.
Good.
Because you can't expose everything. You know, you don't want to expose all your items on your bag part. Maybe it's just a couple that you want.
Yep. Good job. And then templating also would be a concern. that should work. Okay, awesome. Thanks a lot. So yeah, start the PR if you haven't published it yet, and for people to play with it and see how it goes.
It's a draft. We'll talk some more about whether or not it should be the same, whether it should be
route, yeah,
or container route.
Okay.
I don't mind either way. I think it can probably work as part of auto route.
Yeah, because imagine you have auto route, AliasPart, route handler, container route. I mean, people will, I get it, but people will be super confused.
Exactly. And if you have this route handler part, then you also need an aspect handler part, and then there's a localization aspect handler, and so many parts. You know,
in that case, having a more complex code will make sense just to have a simpler list of concepts.
Cool. Let's do that.
Because people will be like, "What? I don't get it. Too complex for me. I just want a website." Yeah. So yeah, like implementation details, we should hide it. It will be a pain for us to maintain, but we should have good test coverage and functional test, and then to ensure we are not breaking anything when you change something. It will be a pain for devs, but not a pain for users. Okay, all good. Thanks a lot for that.
No trouble.
So I will share again my desktop and 3 sites. I should have opened them. So I tweeted 2 of them. Last week. Oh, people are retweeting. So this tweet. Or this tweet, yeah. So first site, so from H company, London-based company, and new website. So they are building all their new websites. Well, they are building new websites with Orchard Core. They've been active on Orchard Core, and they made lots of modules which are on GitHub already for search and SEO and very great stuff. So very nice websites. Okay. And it's fast, it's on Azure, and they seem happy with the dev experience. Is the blog on the same site? Maybe, yeah. Not super fast. So 2 new sites, and the 3rd one I discovered this morning. Oh, and a 4th one, but I don't remember the URL. So luxurycard.com. Orchard Core. I don't know who did that. Does anyone know? No. This one, and I found another one from Serbia, some government website from Serbia. I will share the link later. But I found it also on Orchard Core. So 3 new websites this week to show. And that's it. I need to look into that. Any questions, comments? Should have some more update for Harvest next week. I will try to talk with some people, and that's it. Thanks everyone. If you don't have any more questions, see you on Thursday. Sipke.
Oui. What about Thursday?
Thursday? Triage. I just saw that you unmuted yourself. I'm like, do you want to say something?
Oh, I was about to say good night.
Thank you.
That's it.
Good night to you.
Thank you.
See you soon. Bye-bye, everyone. Thanks.
Bye, guys.